Hello, New Mexico, and welcome to another episode of Around the Roundhouse, a podcast featuring the policies, politics, and personalities of the land of enchantment from the Roundhouse and beyond. My name is Daniel Chacón, and I'm the state government reporter for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our guest this week is former New Mexico House Speaker Brian Egolf, a progressive Democrat from Santa Fe who served in the legislature from 2009 to 2022. Egolf served as Speaker for 5 years, a post he was elected to after leading the effort to flip control of the House from Republican to Democratic majority in 2016. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for joining us, whether it's on the streets of Santa Fe or here on Around the Roundhouse. It's always nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. It's nice to be seen. And you do a good job of that. Whenever I walk by your office, you'll send me a text message, like your shirt's untucked or, nice sunglasses.
Yes, there are times when we're up on the second floor and I look out the window and I see you and I announce, "There's Brian Egolf walking down the streets of Santa Fe." You're still thought of, Mr. Speaker.
Good. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sir, you've been out of public office for more than 3 years. Do you miss life in a fishbowl?
Not at all. I get asked this question not infrequently, although it's becoming less frequent as the years go by. I don't regret the decision to leave office. I think taking a break from being in elected office is healthy. It took me honestly about 2 years to realize how kind of like twisted up I was from the job, and realize how much of me the job was consuming. Uh, and yeah, I just got back from a short trip. I took my daughter to Mexico for a few days, and you know that sort of thing is something I really couldn't do before, because there were so many demands of the job of speaker and with my law practice and other things. So it's really great to have time to travel with family and to put some focus on other priorities, knowing that the house I left behind is continues to be in very good hands.
I think I may have seen a photo of you scuba diving. Is that something that you do on a regular basis or something that you learned to do recently?
I was certified when I was, I think, 14. So it's something that I've enjoyed doing almost 35 years. My daughters got certified a couple years ago. My wife got certified right before we got married. So I absolutely love to do it. I try to go at least once a year, more if I can. And when the four of us are traveling, in a warm spot with an ocean, it's a fun family activity. So we can all do it together. So it's been a lot of fun.
Right on. And I know it's been a little bit, a number of years since you announced that you weren't going to seek reelection. Take us back to that moment, and did you wrestle with that decision? I mean, because it sounds like you're glad you made I mean, you're seeing the benefits of making that decision, but did you wrestle with it at the time?
I did. The decision started actually on a road trip with my two girls. We went to a series of national parks, and one summer we went to Carlsbad and Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde in Colorado. And this was in 2021, and it was a great experience. I enjoyed it, but I couldn't get rid of this feeling of almost guilt because I had never done it before. In the 14 years that I was in the legislature, we took a family trip that was longer than 5 days one time. And that was to a family reunion for my wife's grandfather's 90th birthday. Right. So the travel just like wasn't happening. And it occurred to me that if I had run for reelection, it did another 2 years, that by the time I graduate, or by the time I was done with that term, my oldest daughter would have graduated from high school and been off and gone. And it was really that moment when I realized that I didn't have that much time left with my kids when they were going to be at home. That I basically, started the process of working through the decision to leave office. I um, kind of came back that from that trip. We had started to look at uh, running for a different office, and I came back and I said, "Turn it off. I'm gonna not run for reelection." And um, yeah, everyone was sort of shocked
Mhm.
by the decision.
Mhm.
Um, the people who knew me the best understood, right, that the family was going to become top priority. I needed to focus on being more available for Kelly and the girls. And like I said, I think it was a really good decision. I from time to time, there's one, I do miss the people, right? You spend that much time there, and the legislators, folks in the press, some of them, you're included in this list. Some aren't. They become your friends, right? I mean, because that's who you spend most of the time with, and so I miss a lot of the people, and then I miss sometimes the ability to, when you're speaker in New Mexico, you can wake up with an idea to help people, and you can make it happen, kind of like that. And I miss that. We It's a long story, but like the very short version, the governor was wanting to pass the health insurance affordability fund. This is a thing that puts a tax on insurance companies and uses the money to help people that are in that donut hole of affordability buy health insurance on the exchange, right? So they earn too much to get Medicaid. They can't really meaningfully afford insurance on their own. They don't get it from their employer. And that bill was dead. And we resurrected it, did a bunch of procedural things to get it through. And I'm told now there's like 150 to 175,000 lives that are insured under that program. And I miss being able to do things like that, right? To, you know, push something through. Um, but like I said, there's still a lot of good folks in the legislature, and they can take care of those things while I'm away.
Well, would you consider running for public office later on in the future?
You never say never. I definitely think that when the time is right, I'd be happy to throw my hat back in the ring. Now is not that time. We've got good folks running for governor, and we'll see how that all plays out next year. I'm in no hurry to get back in. I'm 48, so I think I've still got plenty of time to get back in if the opportunity presents itself. And um, yeah, so we'll see what, as the president says, we'll see what happens. And that would be the only time I quote Donald Trump in this podcast.
You're no fan of Donald Trump?
I am not. I'm not.
Um, I don't know if I'm. May I ask why you're not a fan of the president?
Uh, Boy, I mean, this
Do
is a
we have
30
enough
minute
time on
podcast.
this
I was
podcast?
going to say, like, I feel like, most of your episodes are like 25 to 30 minutes. I don't know if we have enough time, but, I think I think it could be summed up as his cruelty. The, 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 the fact that he and his administration are pursuing policies across the board that seemed designed to terrorize and scare people and inflict cruelty is something I honestly never thought I would see from an American president, and it is something that is deeply disturbing. Uh, from the beginning, dismantling USAID. There's an article in the New York Times where they started to try to estimate the number of people who are dying or who have died because U.S. aid was withdrawn. The number of kids that are starving to death, or the number of people that are going to die from HIV in Africa. The I mean, just yesterday, right? There was an Afghan uh, uh, citizen who had helped U.S. forces in the war there, who showed up for a hearing and was just arrested by ICE, masked agents for no reason. Um, the the 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, the largest beef packing plant in the United States closed because of ICE raids. Ripping people who have done nothing wrong other than overstay a visa or enter the country without papers. Like tearing these communities apart. I mean, the cruelty of it all is horrifying. What Robert Kennedy is doing at Health and Human Services. They just yesterday ended the suicide prevention line for LGBTQ people. That was on the news this morning. I mean, why? Why are they doing all these things? And it is that combined with the just consolidation of power, with his fascist approach, to send the Marines into Los Angeles. I mean, this is the tip of the iceberg, and I think this is what's coming down after this. I think Governor Newsom is right. I mean, LA is the test case to see what kind of pushback he gets, and to try to roll that out in other cities around the country. I think it's extremely scary and disturbing, and we're not even getting into the economy and the instability. Like my wife's business. We when there's not limes growing in the United States, she brings them in from other places, right? And so the instability of tariffs, it's chaos and cruelty, and I hope we make it through the 7/8 of his presidency that's remaining. It's very
Okay.
scary.
Well, Mr. Egolf, I want to go back to your time in the legislature and wanted to ask when people ask about your legislative successes, which would you rank at the top and why?
Um, I am very proud and pleased that we were able to get through so much in the healthcare arena, taking the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, putting it into state law so that people can have access to healthcare. Uh, a lot of the increase, we basically doubled the K-12 education budget. That's now starting to bear fruit. We did it right before COVID, and so schools closed and they went remote. So we're finally starting to catch up there. I'm really proud that we were able to pass the New Mexico Civil Rights Act, um, to give people here in New Mexico a way to vindicate their rights under the state constitution and do it in state court. Also, we are the only state to have completely abolished qualified immunity,
Mm.
uh, so that the government, when they violate someone's rights, can be held accountable without this kind of bogus judge created rule called qualified immunity. Um, we have, we protected the Gila River from, we're going to keep that a free flowing wild river forever, based on legislation that we passed. We decriminalized abortion and put a lot of reproductive health care protections in place just in time. I mean, right before the Dodd decision that repealed Roe versus Wade came in place. And I think also overall is we had made a very deliberate effort to make the House look like New Mexico. We thought it was important for the people of the state to look at their legislature and see people who look like them and talk like them and think like them. And so we achieved a majority of the members, women, more people of color than ever before. So really, the people's house looks like the people now. And I think that's really important.
Mr. Speaker, some of your critics have said that you push New Mexico too far to the left of the political spectrum. Are they right or wrong?
I think they're wrong. I think we did a lot of common sense reforms that had been delayed for many years. I don't think there's anything wrong about uh, giving huge pay increases to teachers. I think that's pretty popular. I think putting in place common sense environmental laws is common sense and it's popular. The people of New Mexico want to be able to recreate, go out and hunt, fish, and hike, and they want to do it with clean air and clear water and um, in an environment that is, welcoming to them. A lot, and we did a lot of bipartisan work too, especially in the criminal justice, public safety arena. When he was still in the legislature, former leader Nate Gentry and I, and Democrats and Republicans, passed a whole series of public safety funding bills, criminal justice reform. There was a lot of things that we did that were broadly bipartisan. Most of the budgets that we passed had a lot of Republican votes. There were some areas where people are just not going to agree. Reproductive health care is one of them.
Yeah.
But that's I'm not going to apologize that we're protecting a woman's right to make decisions right for herself and her body.
Mr. Speaker, you mentioned public safety. There were kind of mixed opinions about this last 60-day session and whether or not the legislature met the demands or what New Mexicans wanted. There was some criticism that Democrats were focused too much on rehabilitation. Republicans too much on punishment. What could have happened differently? What should have happened differently, if anything?
I think it seems to me that the legislature is understanding the chronic causes of crime as well as the acute. So you can draw a very straight line between the efforts that Governor Susana Martinez took in 2013 when she quite literally ended New Mexico's behavioral health delivery system. Remember when she shut down all of the providers and brought in this company from Arizona? As soon as this Arizona company couldn't charge $400 or $500 an hour for their work, they left, and the system was destroyed. I mean, literally. I mean, this is not an exaggeration. It's a horrible thing, and you can see the decline in the delivery of behavioral health services to people around the state. And a couple of years later, what starts to happen? Crime starts to tick up, and you start to see homelessness in Albuquerque and around the state increase. You start to see people who are in crisis with nowhere to go, and of course, all of the economic and public safety consequences flow from that. And so you've got, if you want to, so this problem that we're facing with public safety and homelessness did not come into existence overnight. It was a 8-year trend that started in 2013. And so you're going to have to put in place changes that take time to work. So that's why you see big investments in behavioral health. It's not that they're ignoring public safety. It's not that they're ignoring crime. They're planting the seeds so that down the road, you'll have the sorts of delivery systems in place that prevent so many people from going into crisis. In the meantime, the courts have revised the formulas that they use to determine whether or not a defendant is too dangerous to release pending trial. So this revolving door is starting to slow down, and we're seeing finally. I am, sort of loath to criticize municipalities, but in my last year in office, we put, I think it was $125 million to give to municipalities and counties to recruit, retain, and hire, and to recruit, train, and hire and retain law enforcement officers. So these were grants of up to I think that they were either $7,500 or $10,000, where municipal governments could dip into this and use the money to keep their best officers on the streets or to bring in and train on community-oriented policing new officers. That money basically was untouched for 2 years, right? So part of the issue is where the rubber meets the road is that cities and counties in their police departments and their sheriff's offices, and I think they're not doing a good enough job at deploying the resources that the legislature is giving to them to keep people safe. We have a huge deficit in the number of officers, and it's not just Albuquerque. Across the state, we need lots more police officers. We talked about with the governor. It was in 2021. We talked about the idea of using this another $100 million to hire 1,000 police officers over 10 years, and we put the money in. And it's the state police can only do so much, right? It's up to Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Las Cruces, Rio Rancho, and all across the state for them to hire officers, get them trained up, and I'm afraid to say to some extent, they've dropped the ball and are right now starting to finally to play catch up to get officers out on the street.
Mr. Speaker, I want to change subjects a little bit here. You mentioned the governor's race earlier, and I wanted to ask you to give us your take on the state of the governor's race so far. Do you think that Deb Haaland will end up winning the Democratic nomination for governor, or does Bernalillo County DA Sam Bregman have a chance?
I think Sam definitely has a chance. I think Deb has put together a strong campaign. I've endorsed her. I've donated money to her campaign. She and I have been supporters of each other for more than 20 years. We were in law school together, and we organized meetups when meetup.org was still a thing for John Kerry for his presidential campaign. So we're longtime supporters. So I do think she is likely to be the nominee. I think Sam's going to run a strong campaign, but that's a good thing, right? I think it's healthy for there to be primaries for statewide offices. No one should feel like they are going to get coronated or that the nomination is going to be just handed to them. So I do think it's healthy, so long as they follow. Ronald Reagan had his 11th commandment, which is like speak no ill of a fellow Republican, right? Like I think I think it's important that when we're running primaries, that they stay focused on the issues and on the vision of the candidates. And so far, it definitely seems like that's what's happening. I think Ken Miyagishima is, I will say, I'm not impressed with his campaign. I'm not impressed with his opening message about healthcare. And, but I think Sam and Deb are definitely on the right track. And I think the strength of their candidacies and the strength of the Democratic Party is one of the reasons why I don't think we've seen any officially announced Republican candidate. And, we'll see what happens there. I presume they'll find somebody, but the lack of anyone stepping up, so I think says it all about whether the Republicans think they have a shot at winning back that office.
Well, we have the mayor of Rio Rancho, who is a Republican, who has actually delayed his formal announcement, but he is running. He's raised some cash. Another person who's considering getting into the race is former Cabinet Secretary Duke Rodriguez, who, if I'm not mistaken, you've represented in a legal case. And I was going to ask you, could Duke be the Republican nominee for governor if he gets into the race?
Maybe this is sort of like on me. I didn't know he was a Republican. We never really talked about politics, and I represented his company in lawsuits when we were suing the Martinez administration for mismanaging the state's medical cannabis program, and so but we never really talked much partisan politics at all, really. He's a smart guy. He definitely will have the resources to run a strong campaign, so I don't think there's any issue there. But I I'm kind of not the best person to ask to tell you what goes on in the minds of Republican primary voters. But I just say like I have nothing but nice things to say about Duke. Um, he's a good guy, and if by some crazy happenstance he ended up being governor, I think you know I my sense is that he's not a MAGA kind of person, but I still would rather see Deb or Sam in the chair.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, what's your assessment of our current governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham? She's nearing the end of her second and final term in office. What do you think her legacy will be?
I think her legacy will be very strong. Uh, I forgot to mention earlier, but the Energy Transition Act that was passed is a total game changer to decarbonize the state's electric grid. That's going to be a major accomplishment on her list. Um, the serious investments in diversifying the state's economy, I think, will be her one of her big legacy items. We're up to, I think, about $500 million now in state funds deployed to support homegrown New Mexico businesses across a variety of sectors, including biotech, AI, manufacturing, renewable energy. I think that's going to be a big part of her legacy. Investments in healthcare and education, the Rural Healthcare Fund that she has pioneered. Uh, Hopefully, it will be up and running by the time she leaves office. But the New Mexico Film Academy, I think, is going to be a big part of her legacy. Um, there's a lot. I mean, there's a long list,
Okay.
and um, I think she'll be seen as a very effective and successful governor.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I spoke with the current House Speaker this week, Javier Martinez, and I asked him if there were any questions that I should ask you. And he suggested that you help settle a debate in the House Democratic Caucus.
Okay,
Here's the question. Where does the best red chili come from in New Mexico, the southern or northern part of the state?
Chimayo, man. Like,
No question.
I mean, absolutely not. In fact, we it's a family logistics, but we're celebrating Father's Day this weekend coming up because we weren't able to do it last weekend. And my wife said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go have dinner at Rancho de Chimayo and go hang out up there. So that's where we'll be Sunday afternoon, enjoying some of the best red chili. Although here's a secret.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Okay. So have you ever been to El Farolito in the New Mexico town of El Rito?
I know El Rito, but I've never been to El
Okay.
Farolito.
Okay. So El Rito, that's where Northern New Mexico College is officially headquartered. Tiny little town.
Mhm.
And across the street from the college is this little, I mean, tiny place. There might be 5 tables inside. And you walk up to it and it's like, has the health inspector been here? Like what's going on with this place? It's a little rundown. And you get inside and the walls literally are plastered with New York Times review of this place, Food and Wine Magazine, Bon Appetit all the places, Zagat's reviews. It is the best red chili you will ever have. In the family lore is that there is a secret chili field that the family plants in an isolated part of the forest in northern New Mexico. And they do that because, yeah, I don't know if your listeners or viewers know, but when chilies are grown together, as the pollinators pollinate the chili, the chilies go to the lowest common denominator for heat and flavor. So if you have a sort of a mild, not very flavorful group of chilies growing here, and then there's your chilies right there. Eventually, your chilies are going to taste like the subpar chilies. So the family that owns El Farolito keeps their secret location, so, and they keep all of their seeds. Like, good luck, you'll never get the seeds from them. And the patriarch and matriarch of the family allegedly were tending to this field into their late 90s,
Oh, wow.
and then their kids took over, and then the grandkids are taking over. So it's a total secret. The hours are totally irregular, so it's like hit or miss whether you're going to be able to eat there. But if you can, it is the place. Like, by the when I was speaker, I said, by the power vested in me by the laws and constitution of the state of New Mexico, I hereby declare El Farolito to be the purveyor of the finest red chili in all the land. So, like, check it out. That is my secret tip of the day.
Fantastic. Well, next time I go up north, I'll have to take a little side trip to El Rito and El Farolito. Man, they're getting a good plug from the former House Speaker today.
It's well deserved.
Right on. Well, I will have to relay that message to our current speaker, Speaker Martinez. Mr. Egolf, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Am I missing to ask you anything? Just anything you want to talk about that I may have missed to ask you?
I don't think so. This has been fun. I appreciate you thinking of me and giving me a little nibble of the limelight again after some years outside of politics. So it's nice to see you, and nice to visit. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you to our viewers and our listeners for tuning into Around the Roundhouse. Join us every week as we talk to newsmakers like Mr. Egolf and others in the political realm by subscribing to our podcast through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. For the latest developments, follow our coverage online at SantaFeNewMexican.com, where you can also subscribe to our political newsletter, The Roundhouse Report. Until next time, I'm Daniel Chacón, and this has been Around the Roundhouse.